Hello guys, welcome to exercise physiology, flexibility session. We're going to be looking at critically evaluating types of stretching or types of training for flexibility. So basically, what you've got is the definition that I gave you on the sheets yesterday. I want you to use that, okay? And then we're going to have a look at the evaluation points you need to have. So you've got static, which is split into active and passive. Key thing is whether there's an external source or force applied or not. Okay, so you've got an active one where the athlete moves it in themselves. Passive is where there is an external force or object that will move the static stretch into place. So going on from that then, what's the key thing about this? I do not need you to write down all of this stuff. And what we've got is this. Okay, so if you just do the bit that's underlined, plus the advantages are it's safe and simple. You don't need equipment if you keep it as an active static stretch. It's effective in increasing range of movement. So far all I'm asking for you is a plus, safe, simple, plus increased ROM. Then you're going down, so it aids muscle relaxation. Often you'll see people doing static stretches only at the end of a game, okay, after a cool down period. This is to help flush out lactic acid. Then we get on to the fact it's more effective as a maintenance for range of movement rather than a development of range of movement. So for a static stretch, you need to start to think about the fact that it would be used to maintain the range of movement you have at a joint at that point. Okay, the downsides to it is it's slow. Okay, it's a slow method to get any adaptations to, and also it does not prepare your muscles for quick dynamic actions as in invasion games that you'll be used to playing, a lot of you, gymnastics, etc. So it could possibly, as a result of doing this, decrease subsequent speed and power work. So you can see people sometimes they might do a combination of static and dynamic stretches before they take part in a high intensity, high impact sport. Right, moving on then. So ballistic stretches. Okay, so key thing on a ballistic stretch is that it uses momentum to move the muscle tissue through its full range of motion. So what you have is this kind of real use of momentum where you have kind of circle movements. We talked about the pendulum movement. I'm sure Carl did some similar things with you in the session on Tuesday. So key thing is this word of momentum. Okay, and there's momentum on both the entry and the exit of the movement, and that is why it gets the momentum. So if you go through that, plus key points about it, words I'm looking for, it increases speed and power. That's all I need you to focus on. You don't need to write all of these sentences out. Then, okay, it's suited to dynamic ballistic actions, e.g. martial arts, e.g. hurdling. Okay, so that's just a ballistic dynamic. That's all you need. Then you're going on from there. Okay, the downsides are there is a limited increase in muscle length. Okay, so you don't actually get the full stretch like you would a static, as you can feel the muscle kind of slowly extending and stretching, as opposed to these ballistic stretches, which are a little bit shorter in terms of muscle length during the stretch. Now, the other side of it is there's a greater risk of injury due to the momentum that's caused, because you think about it, when you've got static stretch, you controlling the movement in because of the momentum. If you're not warmed up and you haven't, say for example, done a period of a pulse raiser before, you might put yourself under more risk of injury, okay, due to this momentum we talked about. So if you could just basically got your key points on a risk of injury, limited increase in muscle length, speed power plus ballistic dynamic activities plus, and they're your key things. So I've got here, it creates potential to not have sufficient time for tissue to adapt to stretch. So basically you've got in here then because it's so fast, because you're using the kind of force of one direction to then recoil and come back the other way, it doesn't give the muscles and the joints and the connective tissues time to adapt to the stretch because it's so fast. That's a luxury item. Let's keep it easy. Okay, greater risk of injury, limited increase in muscle length. That'll do. 2 and 2 would be fine. Dynamic stretches then. So when we talk about dynamic stretches, we're talking about things like heel flicks, high knees, these kind of things then. Now, I did talk to you yesterday, and I remember saying there was no momentum. There is momentum in dynamic stretches, but if you could just add that to the description, there's momentum, but there is a control with the entry and the exit of the movement. So it's not being like a bound or a recoil like you do with a ballistic stretch. There is a controlled entry and exit into the stretch, and therefore there's less risk of injury due to this exit, and not supposed to be exit, entry is under control. Plus, it can be performed active or passively, and also it improves subsequent speed and power. And I'll put these three things here. You look at it, there's a kind of repetition between dynamic and ballistic advantages, disadvantages. Okay, certainly speed and power is going to increase, and I suppose because you're doing these type of movements that are kind of dynamic, that are fast, that are powerful, it's more appropriate for athletes who are already flexible. Okay, it's not going to be good for someone who's barely exercised. You're not going to put them straight into dynamic stretches or ballistic because it could lead to injury. Okay, it's most effective when preceding a warm-up or following a warm-up, sorry. It's not used, it's not very good for muscle relaxation, therefore it is not used very often in cool downs. So if I could just get you to make sure you're underlining the key bits, does not aid muscle relaxation, and then you've got your bit here, most effective for following a warm-up. Last one. Okay, so basically you've got, this is your description. Now I need this as a description. This is exam description of a PNF. So what we need to look at is once you've done that, you'll have practiced that yesterday, you'd have had that feeling of being pushed, hold, release, push again beyond the point of resistance. So basically, what is good about it? You get the quickest flexibility gain. So you want to put fast gains, fastest flexibility gains, and it's equal to better flexibility gains than any other method. Okay, it also aids muscle relaxation. It is used most effectively as a cool down stretch. Okay, and it's also very effective for muscles or joints that have a really poor range of movement because it allows them to be really manipulated into positions you want to. Finally, disadvantages mostly require a partner to assist, so you need someone who is one, there, two, qualified and knows what they're doing to assist. Okay, it's complex and time consuming, as certainly compared to dynamic and ballistic, and the discomfort and risks involved are higher. Okay, so certainly compared to static stretching, because you're having someone push you past a position of resistance that you normally have. Okay, I'm just going to go into this very quickly there. If you have a look at the adaptations to flexibility training, so first one, increased elasticity. Okay, an increased length of muscles and connective tissue. You have an increased resting elasticity, so both during exercise and when you're resting. Key thing, and it's in your definition, I told you at the start of the whole thing, key memory hook, ROM-SOM. Okay, so you've got this range of movement. There's a greater range of movement at a joint, okay, and there's also a greater range of movement before something called the stretch reflex is initiated. Okay, so I will talk about the stretch reflex tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Can you make sure you have these notes down? I know it's a bit of a lengthy screencast with a lot of talking, but I need you to make sure you have a really good idea of, one, the description of the types of flexibility, two, the adaptations.